Hey guys, throughout the history of RuneScape, there have been a lot of random events that Jagex has created to mess around with players. The primary reason for random events was to decrease the number of bots in the game, but as time has gone on, botting scripts have gotten way more sophisticated, and random events just don't seem to get the job done anymore, and a lot of players have deemed most of them to be pointless nowadays and a waste of time. Because of this, in RuneScape 3 and in old school RuneScape, Jagex has discontinued a lot of them, and there are some that only manage to stay in the game for a couple of weeks and only a few hours due to them being severely buggy. And some players don't even know about them today. Number 10, Guardians. These were aggressive NPC random events that used to appear when players were training gather skills, which included mining, fishing, woodcutting, and prayer. Players could fight these monsters for reduced combat experience, but also for a chance at an item drop based upon the skill that they were training. The level and max hit of the Guardian that appeared was dependent upon the level of the player they would attack, and here's a chart for those of you that are curious that never knew about these. The Guardians today were all removed from the game in the random event update in old school RuneScape, as their primary function was to kill players. However, for historical purposes, the Guardians were relocated to areas across RuneScape. Players may still kill them for their drops, but they no longer are considered aggressive, and you can see their new locations in this graph here. The only one that was never truly relocated was the zombie, but zombies of several different levels can be found across RuneScape with similar drops to the random event one. Number 9, the Exploding Rock. The Exploding Rock random event was a mining random event that occasionally happened when a player tried to mine a rock after the point at which it began to steam, smoke, or bubble. When this happened, if the player didn't stop mining, eventually the rock would show an explosion animation, and your player would be damaged for 10 hit points. The explosion, however, would not always cease the smoke or the bubbles coming out of the rock, meaning that if you tried mining it a second time, you would be damaged again, and on top of that, your pickaxe would be broken. And the only way you could get it repaired would be to take it to a dwarf called Nermoth down in the far northwest section of the Dwarven Mine, and you would have to pay money to him too. Number 8, Flying Tools. This one is pretty self-explanatory, but if you played back in the day, you may get some nostalgia from remembering it happening to you. Basically, if you were woodcutting, farming, fishing, or mining, sometimes a random event would happen to you and throw whatever tool you were wielding on the ground nearby. Your woodcutting axe or pickaxe head might fall off and get thrown right behind you, or your spade or rake head would fly off while farming, and sometimes a big fish would pop up out of the water while you're fishing, take your net, and spit it nearby you. This used to be a real thing in old school RuneScape, and believe it or not, the pickaxe, rake, spade, and woodcutting axe heads and handles were actually wieldable until you took them off, and they were also tradable too. However, you can't find them on the Grand Exchange. I believe you can't find them on the GE because the Grand Exchange was added after those random events were taken out of old school RuneScape. I have no idea what their prices are today, if anybody has any more of them, as they were pretty useless and more than likely worthless and dropped, but it is interesting to think that they are rare now if any of them do exist nonetheless. Number 7, Ents. Whenever a player tried to chop a tree, the tree had a chance of becoming an Ent. Like most random events, its purpose was to stop macro users. Ents had a chance of appearing for all players chopping trees in the area, which meant that if you were chopping trees with a lot of people, the chances of someone receiving this Ent random event would be greater for every player chopping. If you continued to chop the tree while the tree was in its Ent form, eventually your woodcutting axe would become broken and useless. Once broken, a player could go to Bob's Brilliant Axes in Lumbridge to get the broken axe fixed. Bob would fix bronze, iron, and steel axes free of charge, and any other type of axe, mithril, and above would cost money to fix. You used to be able to wield broken axes until you unequipped them. Once you unequipped them, you would not be able to put them back on, and it makes me wonder if there are any accounts out there that are still wielding the broken axes today. Number 6, the Strange Box. Once handed out to players by the mysterious old man, the Strange Box caused a lot of confusion upon its release into the game. When you received one and opened it, the box would present you with the puzzle asking which shape contains which number, or which number is in which shape. Upon completing the puzzle, you would receive coins, gems, or a half of a crystal key. However, ignoring the Strange Box resulted in the spawning of even more strange boxes, and once your inventory completely filled up with them, the boxes would then just continue to stack in your inventory. Because of this, when they were first released, many players took to the forums trying to contact Jagex about what they thought was a bug with the Strange Box duplications in their inventories, but later obviously found out that that was how the event worked. Today, the mysterious old man no longer gives out strange boxes and resides in a house upstairs in Falador, forever trying to solve a strange box of his own. Number 5, Poison Gas. This random event used to occur whenever players would thieve from chests. Occasionally, while looting a chest, gas would come out and damage nearby players. What was interesting about this random event, though, was the hit splat. It would show up as green, however, it would never actually poison you. Today, poison gas can be found when killing the undead ones on Karamja Island. When killed, the undead one will release poison gas that will damage all players in the area for 2 to 3 damage, but to avoid this, all you have to do is walk away and wait until the gas goes away. And once again, anti-poison potions are not needed because the gas doesn't poison any players, even though the hit splat is green. Number 4, Dr. Ford. This random event was discontinued for a number of reasons. Players woodcutting or mining would get hit in the head by a wood chunk or stone, and their screen would go black and a hand would be presented on their screen. Dr. Ford would then ask the player how many fingers were standing up on the hand. Answering incorrectly would result in the player being teleported to a distant place, just like most random events do when you fail them. However, Dr. Ford was so buggy that most of the time, even if you did answer correctly, he would still teleport you to a distant area. For completing the random event, you would only receive some sort of fruit too, like bananas. Nothing really special at all. To make matters even more interesting, the fingers that would stand up or lay down on Dr. Ford's hand interface were completely random, and Jagex got many reports from players speaking about a middle finger incident. Dr. Ford also used to duplicate himself frequently too. This was one of the most buggy random events ever in RuneScape's history, and as such, was eventually removed. Number 3, the Watchman. The Watchman was a random event that appeared during thieving, similar to other Guardian events such as Rock Golem while mining. His combat level differed depending on the player's combat level, and he even made an appearance in a cutscene where the Wise Old Man robs Drainer Bank. Today, in this clip, you can see that the guard that tries to stop the Wise Old Man is actually a pillory guard, but back in the day, before this random event was ever removed, you can see here that in 2006 in the cutscene, judging by the green pants and shield, that this was in fact a Watchman that tried to stop him from robbing the bank. The random event was eventually removed due to players complaining about being killed by him far too often when they were a low combat level, but wanted to train thieving regardless, as the Watchman would appear frequently while training the skill no matter what skill level you had. Number 2, Pious Pete. Pious Pete was a Ceredominist monk who was featured in what was known to be called the Candlelight Random Event. However, the event was taken out of the game along with Pious Pete himself many years ago. Mod Ash stated once on the RuneScape forums, Pious Pete got retired years ago and hasn't been seen since, and he's not due to come back either. The update that removed him and the random event was never addressed in an update post, but instead was removed quietly without any mention, which sort of makes me sad. During the Candlelight random event, you would have been teleported to a church, and once there, you would talk with Pete to learn that his candles keep extinguishing a few moments after being lit. He then would give you, the player, a lighter, and once that lighter was obtained, Pete would inform you to light only certain candles. Today in RuneScape, even though the random event is gone, the area where it was held still exists to this day, as it sits right near the area where the Gravedigger random event takes place. Number 1, the Tangle Vine. The Tangle Vine random event was added to RuneScape on the 6th of April in 2004. When the Tangle Vine sprouted, players on top of the Tangle Vine would have to stand still in order to avoid being damaged. However, the minute the vine started to appear, many players tried to run away from it out of panic. If you tried running away from it while the vine had you, your hit points would be drained rather quickly. Following massive amounts of criticism and feedback from players, Jagex removed the Tangle Vine random event, and a multitude of players were relieved. Mod Mark even gave a statement on the issue. The Tangle Vine was a random event that made it into the game for about 3 hours. If you moved, you would take damage. If you clicked on the screen, you would take damage. If you did nothing for 10 seconds, it would go away because we knew that we had a lot of bots that were pre-programmed to move around and do certain things, and therefore they would kill themselves. Unfortunately, as a gamer, if something happens to you that you don't understand, your instant reaction is to move the hell away from it. We were keeping an eye on the forums on our phones and we were like, this is a bit dangerous, isn't it? And Andrew Gower was like, right, I'm going back to the office, I'm fixing it, I'm taking it out of the game. So that's what he did. Today, if you would like to know more about what the Tanglevine looked like, you can find out by doing the Jungle Potion quest, as the Tanglevine's original model was recycled into a marshy jungle vine that you have to search during that specific quest. So that's 10 discontinued random events that are no longer active in old school RuneScape or RuneScape 3. I hope you guys have enjoyed, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.